Welcome back to the channel. As many of you know, I just completed a series called Black Women Get Out. And I decided to make this video today based on some of the comments that I was reading um, for the last video installment. That video was titled Black Women. I think it's called Black Women Will Continue Leaving Until Employers Do These Two Things. And in reading some of the comments, and um, there were a number of comments that I read. I actually read them all, but my heartstrings were pulled for a couple of them when I read some of the stories of some of the women who are still trapped in harmful workplaces. It kind of just makes my heart go out to them, because it's difficult being in those workplaces and kind of feeling like you can't leave, but at the same time I was able to find some hope. One of the people that commented, she talked about how her employer, specifically her manager and the team during a meeting, how they kind of mocked uh, mentally ill people, and how this it was inappropriate. It was during a conference call, and how she called folks out on it. And she saw that as a red flag, and she quit a little bit afterwards. So, I'm not telling people to go out and quit their job, but if you are in a toxic workplace and you find the courage and you have the ability to quit, um, to leave that job, to go someplace else, I say kudos to you, because it's difficult. I have been in those situations and been in management team meetings where I have heard and seen one of my prior managers make fun of a person who she felt was had mental challenges. We were in the meeting, and one of the things she did is she was talking about the person, and she said, she was hired uh, through the, and she named the program that the uh, organization I worked for before used to hire people with disabilities. And she said, this person, is a part of, and she did like this to describe a black female employee. And it set me the wrong way. It was really, um, it was a horrible situation, but she had done that a couple of times. Um, so I know how that feels. And yes, that is an indicator that that's a toxic work environment. At the time, I didn't think I could leave. I was, I felt stuck, like many other people in the comments feel stuck. So I get it. I understand it. I did the Black Women Get Out series. It was really a video call to action for Black women to begin practicing, begin their journey of practicing radical self care by emancipating themselves. And I did use the word emancipating themselves from harmful and toxic jobs run by toxic wannabe overseers. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean boss. But a lot of them think that they are running a plantation. You know, there are places where um, Black women are, in many cases, disrespected, devalued, and therefore many of them are disillusioned. And so the purpose of the series was, one, to let Black women know that there are other Black women out there that are experiencing or have experienced what they are experiencing, but you have options. Some of us, many of us, we can leave those workplaces today. And again, I'm never going to advocate for somebody to leave their workplace without having a plan in place, without being able to do so safely and can financially afford to do that. But that particular series was really a call for you, Black women, to emancipate yourselves from workplaces that are causing you harm. For many of you who are asking me, perhaps, well, what does leaving a toxic work environment and self care have to do with one another? Well, As Black women, many of us have been conditioned to kind of put ourselves at the end of the line. You know, we kind of, um, if we have time, if we have energy, if we have resources or money. And when I say self-care, I'm talking beyond getting manicures, pedicures, and getting our hair done. I mean actually caring for ourselves, for our personhood, for our mental and emotional and our spiritual selves, you know, in such a way to where we are contributing to our overall personal well being. That's what I mean by self care. So, for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Colette. I created this channel as a safe space with you in mind. I help Black women to embrace new seasons of their lives with purpose and joy by pursuing resilience, by practicing self leadership, specifically authentic leadership, and we'll talk about that more as the channel progresses, and by pivoting towards entrepreneurship. If any of the things I said resonates with you, welcome to the community. We'd love to have you. So at this time, I'm going to just talk a little bit about what practicing radical self care means to me. And I'm doing that because I want to pivot into our next video series, which is called Radical Self Care for Black Women. And so when I am talking about radical self care, it involves caring for and safeguarding our emotional and our mental health. It is an act of self love. I remember as a child growing up, one of my favorite songs of all time was The Greatest Love of All, sung by George Benson. Now, I know many of you like the one by Whitney Houston. I like that one too, but I grew up singing the one by George Benson, and it always resonated with me. The song was just so beautiful, but the thing that always kept me rewinding the tape, because at that time there was no streaming, CDs, none of that. It was an actual cassette tape and you rewound it. Or in my case, my mom had the album, and so you just pick it up and you play it over and over and over again. But anyway, the lyrics that always resonated me were learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And that is so true. Now, that's not to say if you're a Christian that you don't love, the Savior. We know that's a given. But for many of us, Black women, we are often, like I mentioned earlier, conditioned or trained to just do for ourselves last. And when you are caring for yourself, eh, you're not going to let other things harm you or other people harm you. Okay. So, what does radical self care have to do with leaving a toxic workplace? As I mentioned, radical self care is an act of love. And when we love and we care about someone, think about our children. We're not going to let anyone harm our children or our parents or our siblings for that matter, if you're not a parent. We're not going to let anybody harm them. So that's how self care has to do with leaving a toxic working place. When you're in a toxic working place, you are being harmed. You are being harmed. And unfortunately, sometimes we are not able, or we feel we are not able to care for ourselves in terms of liberating ourselves from that particular situation, from the abuse, from the hurt or the harm, you know. Uh, when I'm speaking of self-care, and when you care for other things that you value, you protect it, you take care of it. And so that's how self-care, radical self-care is what I'm calling it. It's how it is related to exiting um, a toxic work environment if you can, as soon as you can, just because you are showing yourself compassion. It's pure and simple, and you deserve that. You are worthy, okay? You You should not feel guilty about wanting to care for yourself, not feel guilty for wanting to protect your emotional and mental well-being as well as your soul. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. And that's what radical self-care is about. With with the radical self-care journey, that's when we kind of, to me, began our healing. That's when I began my healing, is when I made a decision, that I care about myself more than I care about what I'm earning. Okay. I had to make a decision. What was more important to me? Is me living more important than bringing home a paycheck from a place that is literally causing me um, to be sick every day, all day? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about self care. And I know you may say, Colette, you're kind of rehashing some of the things in your prior videos, and that may be true, but I'm doing it because I do get questions and people talk to me about these videos and they share the stories that they share. They're horrific, and it's not this is not anecdotal. I had a person in the comments of my last video say that's not happening, ABC, whatever. And I was going to delete the comment, but I decided no, I need to leave the comment because some people feel that way. Some people feel that Black women are not being harmed on jobs, that we are not getting promotions because we're not applying for jobs. You know what? At this point, there's no reason to argue the point. We just need to survive these jobs in some cases. Just surviving every day, literally, is something to be achieved in some of these harmful working environments. I know of women who had to go out on medical leave. I know women who had to go into um, a hospital. Personally, I know people personally who have done that. I know women who, had to do all kinds of things, Black women, because of what they experience on these toxic jobs. So, radical self care means kind of re examining the totality of your life and seeing if where you're working and who you're working with and for, if that is in alignment with any type of self care regimen that you already have in place, or does it support any type of self care that you would like to put in place. There is a YouTube channel, and I've mentioned it before. I'm looking down because I'm looking at the names, that where they provide Black women with strategies for healing um, from toxic jobs. And the person who hosts the channel, her name is Dr. Kamani Norrington Sands. Very, 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 very helpful channel for Black women who are trying to heal from working at toxic jobs. The channel is called Lifting as We Climb Consulting Awareness Services. That's the name of the YouTube channel, and I will link that YouTube channel in the description box below. Um, you don't have to take this journey alone. And I know you may say, Colette, you're kind of jumping from self care to healing. Again, to me, self care, the way I am referring to it, is the beginning of healing. For me, that's how it's working. Okay. So I'm inviting you all to come along on this journey with me during the next few videos. But I also encourage you to check out the channel that I just mentioned. During this series, we'll talk about simple and fun ways that we can show ourselves radical self care. And I'm using the word radical because for many of us who are mothers, working mothers, who, we got a lot of stuff going on, it is going to be an act of being radical because we'll have to devote some time to ourselves. And this is not a selfish thing, it is not exclusionary. It's actually, when you think about it, inclusionary in that it's an act of love to ourselves, which when we are able to fill ourselves up, we're able to give to our families more. We're able to help from a place of abundance as opposed to depletion, which many of us are depleted. We're depleted in energy, we're depleted mentally, emotionally because of dealing with toxic jobs. So when we come home, we have no energy. So practicing radical self-care will help us to replenish our the Bible calls them cisterns. So in the Bible there's a saying that you cannot give from an empty cistern. I'm saying the word wrong, cistern. In the meaning that if it has holes in it, why? Because the water will come out. The water is leaking out. It's empty. You can't pour water from an empty or broken cistern. So that's how we are. We have to give if we want to continue to support in a healthy way and us be healthy coming out on the other side. We have to kind of look at ourselves and take some inventories and some assessments and ask ourselves, is this activity, whatever it is it conducive to my complete and total healing? You know, specifically, I mentioned working at a toxic job, but there could be other things. It could be a number of other things. It could be relationships. It could be whatever. So, um, I have a few guests that will be coming on to the channel because I'm the type of person I like to offer people ideas for alternative ways that you can show yourself self-care. And they don't have to be the activities you take part in, it doesn't have to be, grand or extravagant. One of the things I started doing, I mentioned in other videos, is drawing. I started back writing my poetry. Those things are soothing to me. You know, I started, one of the things I talk about in an upcoming video is doing history of the family. So I do that to relax my mind. It's like putting together a puzzle. And some people do puzzles. In fact, I just ordered a puzzle. So I'll be doing that. Just simple things, having fun. Sometimes we just need to laugh. Sometimes I get up and dance. I'm in here by myself and I dance. Now I can dance. Okay, I can dance. And I have fun. So I'll have a few guests on that will kind of explain and share with us ways that we can use our hobbies and special interests in our self-care regimen. So I'm really, 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 really excited about that. I just want to leave you with a quote from poet Audre Lorde. And the quote goes like this: caring for myself is not self indulgence, okay? It is self preservation and is an act of political warfare. It is. To me, radical self care is, in other words, an act of liberation, liberating yourself from things that are not serving you at this point in your journey of life. It really is. When you think about it, you know, um, it's the ability to say, I'm done with this part and closing the book to, you know, whatever. It could be closing the chapter, it could be moving to the next page, it could be any number of things. But I'm really excited about this self-care journey. I wanted to do this quick video so that we can kind of pivot from that heavy stuff we talked about in the prior series um, to what we're going to be talking about in the next few videos. So thank you for watching. Until the next time. Oh, and if you found this video enjoyable, please give it a like, a thumb up. It tells the YouTube algorithm that, hey, we kind of like what Colette is saying. And if you are interested in the topics that I am discussing, specifically the new series or even the last series, consider subscribing to the channel. When you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you are notified when I upload a new video. I try to upload the videos once or twice a week. Also, if you don't mind, in the comments, drop some ideas of what you do to practice radical self-care. One of the things you might consider doing is kind of asking yourself, just doing a quick little inventory of the things that keep you busy in your life. Just write them down. If it's taking folks to the little ones to the soccer game, if it's, you know, uh, I don't know, volunteering somewhere, if it's, whatever it is, just write down a few tasks that you're doing, busy stuff, and kind of think of things that maybe you can give or have somebody else do for you. And I understand if you're a single mom, you may not have the option. I was a single mom, but I was blessed. I had a village. So just write that down and then think about ways where you can fit in time to do one thing, just one thing, at least maybe 2 to 3 times a week for 15 minutes at a time that can contribute to your self care, your radical self care journey. Just a, 3 times a week. Okay? All right. Until the next video, we'll talk.